Let's turn now to Victor Gao. He's chair professor at Soochow University. Victor, talk to us about this long and rich history between China and France. Give us a sense of the importance of this relationship between these two countries.
Thank you very much for having me. China and France are marking the 60th anniversary of the normalization of the diplomatic relations between the two countries. I would say the Chinese people and the French people really admire each other, and we can really learn from each other. We respect each other as an equal. And in the Chinese history, many of our very important senior leaders like Zhou Enlai and Deng Xiaoping worked and studied in France in their early years. And this is truly an extraordinary bond between China and France. And the fact that 60 years ago, President de Gaulle took the great wisdom and courage to normalize relations with China indicated that France, not only being the first country in the Western world to recognize China, but also was willing to take an important step forward in developing its mutually beneficial relations with China. By today, China and France are cooperating in multiple areas, not only in nuclear power, for example, civilian use of the nuclear power, in many industrial endeavors, including aerospace, and increasingly, China can also give a lot of help to the industrialization in France, especially in electric vehicle. Therefore, I think the two countries want to size up each other once again after completing the first 60 years. And I would say the coming 60 years will become more important because France, among all the developed countries in the West, is truly an extraordinary power, well positioned to develop its relations with China. So we are very happy celebrating the 60th anniversary. We want to visit France as much as we can. And there is a visa exemption for people in France to come to visit China with minimum hassle. So hopefully the relations will be boosted again on this 60th anniversary happy occasion.
Yes, Victor, you mentioned aerospace. We've got a story coming up on that in just a moment. The story we just watched, though, I think is an illustration not just of the partnership between China and France, but also efforts at tackling climate change. I mean, this joint center on decarbonization, these efforts at introducing clean energy, the two countries working together, that's vitally important as well.
Indeed, I would say going forward, gradually phasing out fossil fuel will be a very important step in mankind's fight against the impact of the climate change. In this particular regard, France is very well developed, very sophisticated in the civilian use of nuclear power, and China has emerged as the leading power in electric vehicle, in wind power, in solar power, you name it. Therefore, between China and France, we can really leverage off on each other's strengths and help each other in where it is weaker than the other. And the end result will be both China and France will make significant progress going forward in gradually phasing out fossil fuel, including coal. And we can not only help each other, but help mankind as a whole in doing what's the right thing for mankind to do. That is, every country doing its bit to make sure that the impact of the climate change will be lessened rather than further enhanced going forward as a havoc for mankind.
And Victor, we mentioned in the story that France and China had their tensions in recent years. Clearly, the United States has had tensions with China. Are there some signals that the U.S. can pick up in this relationship, how to mend fences and move forward? And where do you see the relationship going in the future?
Well, first of all, between China and the United States, I understand there is a recent RAND report which indicated that it most likely will be futile for the United States to single out China as if China will be suppressed by the manhandling of the United States and also the U.S. allies, for example. If that conclusion prevails and is accepted as a policy matter in Washington, then first of all, China and the United States really need to deal with each other as an equal. And between China and the United States, we can really cooperate rather than confront with each other for the benefit of the Chinese people and the American people and mankind as a whole. France is extraordinary among major Western powers because France, from the Chinese perspective, still retains a high level of independence, autonomy, for example. It does not want to be held as a surrogate or a subjugate of the United States. To that extent, China-France relations have maintained very unique, extraordinary, robust economic development, and both France and China are benefiting from this closer cooperation. Going forward, if China-US relations become less hostile against each other and more as a business relations, then I would say there'll be less restraint on the part of France in developing its relations with China in a maximum way, making sure that both China and France will benefit and mankind as a whole will benefit. This is the time for major powers like China, the United States, and France to close rank rather than to be divided by ideology or Cold War mentality. From the Chinese perspective, we want to have as many friends as possible, and we do not want to have any enemy in any shape and form. And neither the US nor France should be viewed in a hostile manner. Let's be friends. Let's get along.
Yeah, it's a good point. Victor Gao, always a delight talking to you. Thanks for getting up this morning and visiting with us, and we look forward to chatting with you again in the future.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.